A couple of weeks ago, Allison Carter at PR Daily published an article about the Cracker Barrel logo debacle. It was not the same old Monday morning quarterbacking story about the crisis. It was about the new data that shows about half of the social media outcry about the logo change was fake. It was fake. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute because I also needed a minute. According to a report from Peak Metrics, 44% of X posts, formerly known as Twitter, about the Cracker Barrel logo within the first 24 hours were bots. Among those calling for a boycott of the restaurant, 49% were fake. The bot activity criticizing the logo change as woke and inauthentic was what created the groundswell. It generated enough early heat to appear like a consensus and created enough volume to be noticed by influential people who then amplified it. Suddenly, a spark that started as manipulation became a business problem and a real crisis. The Cracker Barrel stock fell more than 7%, wiping out nearly $100 million in market value in a matter of days. You guys, this is insane. I can't, this is insane. I'm wearing my glasses because I have a migraine. Well, I don't have full migraine. I'm getting a migraine. But this is what's happening to me. I'm watching this stuff and it's giving me a migraine. It's insane. And it's something that we have to get our arms around and fast so that when this happens to us, and it will happen to us, we know how to respond in real time and mitigate the groundswell before it becomes a full-blown crisis. But first, you have to understand how we got here. On this week's Spin Sucks podcast episode, we'll discuss how to manage a bot manufactured dust-up before it turns into a real crisis.
If you're a communications pro who works hard, doesn't compromise quality, and gets the job done, welcome home. We'll share our tips, tricks, and stories, and together we will change the face of PR. Spin sucks, but we don't. With the Spin Sucks podcast, here's Gini Dietrich.
Welcome back to the Spin Sucks podcast. I'm Gini Dietrich. Before we get started, I have a little tidbit for you. Did you know that if you can't finish watching right now, you can subscribe to the audio version of the show? We're on all the platforms where you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and get it there too by going to spinsucks.com. What's changed isn't outrage itself, because of course people are always outraged about something. It's the cost and speed of manufacturing it. Cheap botnets tuned by generative AI and incentivized by platform monetization can generate a claim with enough initial momentum to deceive recommendation systems and appear like consensus within hours. The Wall Street Journal reports that these coordinated attacks on consumer brands are becoming more common as AI lowers the effort and X-style incentives reward controversy and volume. However, there are some early telltale signs that you can watch out for and report on. Duplicate phrasing, reposted walls, and around-the-clock activity. These markers can make a minor dispute appear to be a groundswell until real people pick it up and amplify it. This makes the first 24 hours even more important. Your job isn't to debate authenticity on the timeline. It's to diagnose it quickly, brief executives with a clear read, how much is likely synthetic and whether credible humans have validated it or not, and move proportionately. Authenticity becomes a diagnostic for how you respond, not whether you respond at all. Coming out of that new crisis math, or this new way of dealing with things, most bot amplified blowups follow the same rhythm. It starts with seeding. A high-reach human account, probably somebody was upset about the Cracker Barrel logo, such as a creator, a pundit, or a political figure, frames the brand move as a values test. That single post then provides the swarm with something to latch onto, and it's enough for recommendation systems to track for acceleration. Next comes signal inflation. Coordinated, inauthentic accounts pile on within minutes, they copy phrasing, they post at suspiciously regular intervals, and they are brigading keywords to push the topic into trending services. In the Cracker Barrel case, researchers documented those exact signatures, a bot share of nearly half of all posts in the first 24 hours. Then comes the human validation. The inflated volume gets noticed by real people with real reach, journalists, influencers, sometimes elected officials, who treat it as organic momentum. Their amplification is the tipping point that moves a social dust-up into mainstream coverage and onto Wall Street. And finally, there are real dollars lost. Once a narrative clears that bar, you get headlines, investor questions, jittery partners, and in some cases, operational reversals, like going back to our original Cracker Barrel logo. Peak Metrics' analysis tied the Cracker Barrel surge to measurable financial consequences and a rapid rollback, illustrating how a synthetic spark can still produce very, very real heat. Knowing where a flare-up sits in this pipeline is what enables comms teams to decide whether to monitor, message, or mobilize a complete response. And it has to happen fast before human validation and Wall Street take action. Three forces make synthetic outrage unusually effective right now. First, platform incentives reward controversy and speed. They just do. We know that. It's been like that for years. X's monetization and recommendation mechanics amplify divisive content and make it cheap to sustain attention once bots create the initial velocity. Fake campaigns often get turbocharged by not botnets precisely because the platform pays for engagement and the algorithm promotes content that's already moving. Secondly, our brains mistake visibility for validity. When we see the same claim everywhere, we unconsciously file it as consensus. Once enough signals accumulate, people begin to follow the crowd's apparent judgment rather than using their own critical thinking. And before you come at me, we all do this. It's human nature. The synthetic spark manufactures the perception needed to trigger every human decision-making shortcut. And then third, newsroom realities accelerate pickup. Reporters and editors operate under intense speed pressure in a 24/7 news cycle, and social feeds are a primary early signal source. Even with verification practices, a fast-moving, high-volume narrative, especially one already amplified by credible humans, can be treated as newsworthy before its authenticity is fully parsed. That's the moment a platform problem becomes a brand problem, and the moment you just entered into real crisis territory. So, given the incentives in human psychology, how do you quickly size up what's in front of you? First of all, start with the shape of the volume. Synthetic waves tend to spike rapidly and then hum along overnight without the typical peaks and dips associated with human activity. If a jump occurs in minutes and persists throughout the night, you may be seeing coordinated, inauthentic behavior rather than organic spread. Next, scan the language. Scroll a screen or two and watch for cloning. This will appear as identical sentences, slogans with a single noun swapped, the same 2 or 3 hashtags repeated in the same order. This is one of the cleanest signals you can spot without software, AI, or tools. Just scroll through and see how much of it is duplicative. Then you can click into a handful of profiles that are driving the conversation. Red flags include lots and lots of brand new or low history accounts. It includes timelines dominated by reposts about this and posting at suspiciously regular intervals with no human pauses for sleep or work. One Cracker Barrel researcher noted that accounts posted identical phrases every 17 minutes for 12 straight hours. No human being could do that. Then check out who's doing the early amplifying. If the first wave of engagement is dominated by pay to engage or otherwise low trusted verified accounts and only later attracts mainstream voices, you're likely seeing manufactured momentum seeking validation, not reflecting it. And then lastly, compare against your real world map. If conversation volume is concentrated in geographies or communities far outside your consumer base, or if support tickets, partner calls, and customer chatter are quiet while social looks on fire, treat the spike with skepticism and verify before you escalate. Together, these things give you enough confidence to choose a posture in just minutes. Monitor and prepare when the signals indicate inflation, and act as if it's real once credible individuals have validated, regardless of how it began. So see if it's fake, if it's synthetic, see if anybody has amplified it. And if not, that's what you're going to report. If someone has validated it and amplified it, that's what you're going to report. And you're going to do that because you're going to prevent a crisis pretty fast. You've sized the situation, you've triaged the bleeding, and now it's time to move fast and stay calm. This will be a short loop you run 2 or 3 times during day 1 as new information becomes available. First, verify the flame. In the first 10 to 15 minutes, capture a snapshot of simple authenticity that you can share internally. It should include the percentage that's likely inauthentic or a proxy like duplicate text ratio. So 50% are text and 50% are synthetic, or 70% are synthetic and 30% are human. You also should include 3 dominant narratives or duplicate phrases. You should include any credible human amplifiers. So think about reporters, influencers, elected officials. And then if there's any evidence of channel crossover, so support tickets, partner calls, customer chatter, okay? These are the things that we should be thinking about. If you have social media monitoring tools, we use Brand24, but Peak Metrics and others work just as well. Run a quick scan and tag clusters. And if you don't have software, don't worry about it. You can just use the fast triage tips we discussed before the break. Once you understand your snapshots, and it will change several times throughout the first 24 hours, decide on your lane. Use 2 variables, bot share and human validation, to figure out where things sit. High bot, low human validation, you're going to monitor and you'll prepare for a light touch. If it's high bot and high human validation, you want to treat it as real and run your full crisis playbook. If it's low bot and high human validation, this is your standard issue-driven response. Write the call in 1 line for executives. So it will say something like this: high bot indicators now validated by X and Y, moving to active response. Once you've done that, and again, you'll do this several times, you may very well start with high bot, low value, low human validation at the beginning of the day, and by the end, you might be at low bot and high human validation. So you want to make sure you're continuing to do this. Once you've done that, the real work begins. And this is where your response can make or break the crisis. Not to scare you, but this is incredibly important. Debunk without giving it any oxygen. Address the claim, not the agitators. Create and publish a short, values-anchored holding line that you can use verbatim across paid, earned, shared, and owned media. And then stand up a single owned explainer that acknowledges what people are seeing, states the verifiable facts, and says what you're going to do next. Avoid quote tweet debates and personalized back and forth. Point everything back to your pinned post or to something that you own on the website, a statement on the website. And of course, as I just mentioned, you cannot get out of a crisis without a peso model recommendation from me. So make sure to calibrate with paid and shared content, along with creating content for your website and ensuring your media contacts are informed about what's going on. Using paid, you can aim clarifications at customers, partners, and employees. Suppress obvious agitator interest categories, right? So don't spend any money towards them, and always drive to the owned explainer on your website. And with shared, make sure to equip your community managers, field teams, and employees with 2 or 3 pre-approved replies and a simple ask for specifics script. I'm happy to look into this. DMs me so we can help. Track unanswered specificity requests and true issues so you can address those with your leadership team. Lastly, you want to watch the right dials. As you continue to watch the height of the flame, make sure to replace raw mentions with signals that change your recommendation. That includes unique human author count versus total posts. So has your human gone up and your bot has gone down because of that? What the narrative diversity is. Are there multiple distinct claims, or is it just the same message repeated over and over again? Coverage quality. Who covered it? Did they include your messaging and your explainer? What the customer and prospect volume is coming into the organization, and then referral traffic and time on page for your owned explainer. So if you have something on the website, are people visiting it and how much time are they spending? Refresh your authenticity snapshot and recommendations every few hours. Adjust, it might be every hour, it might be every 15 minutes, it might be every 4 hours, just depends on what's happening, right? But you want to make sure that you adjust your cadence and your spend and your speed accordingly. If you keep this loop tight, verify, choose a lane, clarify without giving it oxygen, aim distribution, and measure the signals that matter, you'll act proportionally to the risk, not to the noise. And all of this is a moot point if you don't have an active crisis plan and artifacts ready to go. We all think this is not going to happen to us. And 20 years ago, that might have been true. But today, it's not if, but when. You will definitely face this. Get ready now, for real. Spend the rest of this quarter 4, preparing for an eventual crisis and pre-build all of the parts that you'll need to execute as I've outlined here. Those artifacts should include 5 things. A 1-page authenticity assessment. This should be 10 bullet points, red, green, yellow, thresholds for bot indicators and human validations, plus the decision tree that maps each state to the right response. Number 2 is a holding statement kit. You want 3 variants you can customize in minutes. Values change, product policy change, and misinformation correction. Each should acknowledge what people are seeing, state verifiable facts, and explain what happens next. Number 3 is your owned explainer, but you'll have a template because you don't know what you're going to be explaining, right? So create a template. This is a 250-word fact post with slots for 2 receipts, a simple timeline, and a policy or product image so that you can publish 1 link and update it as you learn more. Number 4 is an analyst or media direct message. This is a short note that you can send one-on-one with your authenticity snapshot. So maybe something like, approximately 49% are likely inauthentic. There's top duplicate phrases are A, B, C, and D. And the first credible amplifiers, if they are there, are Y and Z. Here's what we've done. So it's an easy way for you to direct message or send a quick email to your analysts, your influencers, your journalists. And then number 5 is the stakeholder notes. So 1-page briefs for employees and partners that summarize the facts, your stance, and exactly how to handle questions with links coming back to the website where you have your explainer. Cracker Barrel is not an outlier. It's a clear example of a broader dynamic. Over the last 2 years, multiple household name brands, from retailers to quick service restaurants to manufacturers, have seen culture war narratives seeded by a human, inflated by coordinated inauthentic activity, and then validated by real influencers and officials. The politics vary, the mechanism does not. Bot-boosted fires still burn buildings. Measure the fakery and then move like it's real. If the signal is mostly synthetic and still contained, hold steady with your values line. If credible humans have picked it up, run the full playbook across owned, shared, earned, and paid. And if it's human from the start, fix what needs fixing and close the loop. Spend the rest of this year building your plan to triage what you'll do in the first 24 hours and all of the artifacts you need to have pre-approved so you can move as fast as possible. I promise you, this is not if, this is when, because the next manufactured crisis is not going to wait for you to be ready. If you want to learn more about bot and flame crises, join us in the SpinSucks community. It's a great place to get advice, brainstorm ideas, and build real relationships with your peers. You can find us at spinsucks.com/spin-sucks-community. That's spinsucks.com/spin-sucks-community. And make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. We're posting tips, how-tos, cheat sheets, best practices, and more every week. I'll see you next week.